More medications, less health. Something's broken. Traditional medicine manages symptoms, but true healing addresses root cause. I'm Josh Rimany, pharmacist turned healer. At Beyond the Pills, we merge ancient wisdom with modern day science to inspire you through stories of transformation, practical trainings, and holistic healing. Join me and other practitioners as we guide you towards vibrant health, body, mind, and spirit, and move beyond symptom management into true healing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Pills. My name is Josh Rimany, pharmacist turned healer. And today's guest is Reed Davis. He's the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, or FDN as it's been known in our circles, and one of the most experienced functional diagnostic experts in the world. Reed has personally provided functional assessments to over 10,000 clients and has trained more than 5,000 practitioners worldwide on how to identify and resolve hidden healing opportunities using the FDN methodology. He's known for one powerful philosophy: test, don't guess, but don't worship the lab reports either. Reed's work bridges the gap between data and discernment, helping practitioners and entrepreneurs uncover the true underlying causes of chronic health issues, which is a really fun topic for us around here, without getting lost in the symptom management or the lab obsession. Today, we're diving into the evolution of functional diagnostics, what most practitioners get wrong about lab testing, and how a concierge level wellness model could radically change healthcare, not just for individuals, but for entire companies as well. Reed, welcome to Beyond the Pills, my friend.
Well, thank you, Josh. I'm really excited to be here. We've spoken before, and we're in the same business, which is helping people learn how to live themselves out of the trouble they've lived themselves into. And so I think it's going to be great.
Well, we start off with the right stuff. Look at that. I love the origin stories. So let's just dive in, shall we? Because I've known you through other channels. I'm very familiar with FDN, like my mentors. Like, it's been this fun process for me to get you on the show because I've heard you from all these other places I've hung out with. So thanks for showing up today. But before you trained 5,000 practitioners and assessed 10,000 clients, what were you doing?
I was actually in environmental law. I was saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees, and it was a beautiful thing. I was in Southern California, and it was a long time ago now, but I enjoyed that. But I didn't own the company. There was some mission issues. I was really into the mission. Like, again, saving birds and fish is a cool thing. But I got kind of sick of some of the hype. Vernal pools are cool. You got to move them. The California fairy shrimp, not so much. So we made a lot of money and stuff, but it just wasn't as satisfying. No, real quickly, because I'd rather talk about the people and their problems and how we can solve them and help them. But I was taking my son, who was a high school athlete, into this chiropractic wellness center in San Diego area. And it was really cool. I mean, I just really loved talking to the doctors there. Now, taking him in for chiropractic and massage and therapy and stuff, physical stuff. He got 7 varsity letters in 4 different sports. And yes, but I got a new career because the more I talked to those doctors there, the more I wanted to understand better innate intelligence, how the body heals itself. And, I've never really been to a doctor myself, except for some sports stuff, and didn't know the frustration that the people were having, which is what we really want to talk about. And it was just, so I talked myself into a job there. And within a short period of time, I was running the place and having my way with lab testing. I just got to do like a really amazing amount of work with the labs and the people coming in who were everything you see today, chronic illness. And I discovered a few things. And then after 10 years of that, thousands of people, thousands of live, I started teaching. They kind of pushed me towards teaching. And I started my own business and it was like a teaching FDN. We call it FDN now. I just came up with that name and I'm kind of stuck with it. And I'll just finish by saying the first people that ever took my course, it was 19 people. I had 20 seats open. I filled 19 of them and figured I
Good
was
for
doing,
you.
and then so now there's 5,000 FDNs 17 years later. But they wouldn't go away. This handful of they signed up. They came all the way to San Diego. I trained them in person, and uh, and they just wouldn't leave me alone. So I developed more and more and more. Really developed it into a legitimate program that anyone can take, and it's well, here we are today.
Well, and I've followed that journey. It's funny you say 17 years because that's when I started my entrepreneurial journey. Um, and you talk about that, and some of those things we'll talk like for someone new to FDN, what makes this methodology different from standard functional medicine or some other things? Like, I really want to know because practitioners are listening to and people that are like moving in that allopathic realm of, let's call it traditional medicine. And we're looking for these new things. The people that listen to this podcast are a really good example of that. We're looking to go beyond in these different ways. So, what do most practitioners misunderstand about lab testing?
Great question. I'll answer it. First, I just want to preface it with that had a lot to learn when I jumped into I want to help people instead of saving the planet. What about people, including me? And I had an awful lot to learn, as you know, but I had nothing to unlearn. And so the only object I had, my objective was strictly for all the people coming in the office. They were patients, they were getting doctor care, but they didn't really want it. The last thing they wanted was another diagnosis and treatment plan for whatever you want to call it that they had. Back then, like fibromyalgia was really big, um, and no one could figure that out. So anyway, so my only objective was to find the underlying causes and conditions. The doctors there actually laughed at me. Haha, we can diagnose and treat. You can't. You're not a physician. You have to find out what's really wrong and then teach them how to fix it themselves. No diagnosing, no treatment. And I, having come from the law field, was no problem. I don't cross lines. I'll figure this out. And I spent the next 10 years sorting it out. And now I can teach others the same thing. So the biggest difference is probably that it's a real um, I don't want to say strict, but it's a real methodology, which means a method, steps, and then the ology, the way of thinking is that there's always underlying causes and conditions. And other people say that, but we embody that and we never slip back, So what I think I want to answer that question by saying, um, there was alternative medicine. That's what we were. Then there was, you know, complementary because a lot of our stuff worked, and the medical community wanted to, use us to complement what to do. And then it became integrative, meaning
Right.
now the public is demanding more from the education and different uh, methods from their physicians. So they're demanding it. It became integrative, and now there are other words, but finally, functional medicine has come along. That's what it's evolved into, but it's still medicine. So what I want to say is that they're not fully evolved, and while we still have work to do, we're pretty fully evolved to not. It's just really is underlying causes, conditions, um, and I could go deeper into that, how I sorted that out. But I really want to let the people know that if you're struggling with your symptoms and your conditions, and no one seems to know how to sort it out, that's what I spent 10 years doing, and I've now trained 5,000 people to do. And last thing, if you're one of those practitioners who's been to this training and that training, and you've been to the gut training, you've been to the hormone training, and you've been to the different things, and you might even call yourself functional medicine. But there's another step to take to fully evolve, and we're that step.
I I appreciate this the truth coming from the words because I believe that you did answer this in many ways, so thank you. Like that's exactly what I'm fishing for, not in a bad way. Like there's this cross between diet. We spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about why I don't love the word diagnosis. Like it's an opinion. Because when we don't like the diagnosis, what do? We get a second
Second
opinion.
opinion.
So we don't call it an opinion in the beginning. We call it an opinion, like an opinion later, right? But it's an opinion. We don't need to label ourselves with a problem. What you said keeps resonating with me and has been for probably my whole life is the root. It's not just like the root cause, because that's so overdone now. It's like getting to the cause of what's going on, the why, and getting deeper into the why and getting deeper. And what I've noticed about your methodology too is it's not what you know, it's how you apply it and in the right sequencing of events, because this is where I believe the intersection of medical oversight and people empowering themselves in other ways are coming together, right? It's not like an or, it's an and. And to me, because that's there's no like line between what is medicine and what is wellness, right? And what is just living and lifestyle medicine is a medical category now, but it's
Yeah.
lifestyle. You don't have to get a doctor's oversight to learn how to sleep better and
Yes.
eat better and move better and have different relationships, right? This is that intersection between the clinical side of things and what is literally just being.
Yes, yes. You said important things there too, Josh, and I'll just continue, the discussion here of what are we looking for, which is the underlying causes and conditions. And you mentioned root cause and kind of indicated you thought that might be overplayed a little bit. I agree. It's really overplayed. Root cause, root cause, root cause. There's root cause medicine. And that's really a very noble pursuit. And I used to have it underneath my signature. We get to the root cause, and I still see people doing it. You know what? You may never find the root cause.
Right.
It could be 10 different multiples, a whole constellation of, things affecting a person. And so the term I came up with, I gave up on root cause. I said, um, good pursuit, keep looking, but it's really metabolic chaos. Metabolic chaos is the
Mm.
term I use, and I've heard it called other things. Call it whatever you want. The fact is, there are always multiple causal factors. And the thing that I hope we could uh, agree on here is that they're having an effect on each other in ways that you can't even measure sometimes. So you have multiple causal factors, and people know they have their environment, they have their physical body, it's broken up or whatever. They have their mental, emotional, psychospiritual, and chemical stress. Remember, I came out of the environmental law field. I know how bad the environment is, and especially for people. And so all these multiple causal factors, it's just metabolic chaos. Now, how do you sort it out? That's what I spent 10 years doing. But then
Mm.
the two terms that I really like to, one's in the bio, you read it. We seek and resolve hidden, these sort of healing opportunities, like just what could be improved. Mrs. Smith doesn't want another diagnosis, to your point. She wants to know what's really wrong. What can I do? So the labs that I started using 25 plus years ago were the at the time considered pretty alternative, saliva testing, ooh, hormone test, like that, urine testing, stool testing and things. But I really did a lot of it and blood tests, of course. Um, and because I had to solve for, again, Mrs. Smith or Mr. Jones coming in and saying, I've been to 8 practitioners already and have done all these tests and they keep giving me different diagnosis, but none of it really helps.
Or they say the classic person coming in my seat is, I've done all these tests. The doctor says there's nothing wrong with
Oh
me,
boy, that one.
right? And then you're looking at them straight in the eyes, like as a human, and they're just looking at you going, but why do I feel like this? Right? It's like that's
Yeah.
what sparked it in me, right? That learning of how we go deeper.
Me too. Me too. I know something's wrong. My doctor said my blood work looks normal, but I know something's wrong. So what they do is they go down the street, they try a bunch of sometimes weird stuff. Like, remember, I lived in California, no shortage of it, right? So it's like they've been to 3 medical doctors, 2 alternative practitioners, and a shaman or something, so they want here they I didn't want to be number 9 out of 15 people they had to see to get better. I was out riding my motorcycle one day, 25 plus years ago, and said, just thinking about, actually, it was ruining my ride, which are otherwise beautiful in the hills of Southern California. Those people at the office, like, I'm going to be the last guy they need to see. And didn't know how, um, but I didn't let that stop me either. I just ran thousands of labs, alternative labs. They're now functional labs. People, you're familiar with saliva, urine, stool, all these tests, but I correlated them with each individual person, thousands of people, and that clinical correlation is another thing that differentiates my training, maybe from some others that they got trained. You could go for a week to a A4M conference and come out and call yourself functional medicine practitioner. But if you're still in the same model of thinking and it's not fully evolved, and so people still go away suffering. So my job was to end it. I had to figure it out. And I only did it for our practice. We had a nice office in Southern California. Um, People, I'd say, sort of middle class, a lot of working women with kids growing up, and men, executives, and people like that. Anyway, they're coming in and they just want to know what's really wrong with me because they were willing to do something about it, which is, let's admit, that's the other side of the coin. This isn't magic. It takes time to heal, and often it requires a narrow path. It's like, well, you know, a lady came in with her husband. They're sitting. I was sitting next to them at a table, and I had all her test results. I'm going to go over her reports, and she was just crying. She was just in tears. And I said, What's wrong? Are you scared?" Like, she goes, "No, I just don't want you to take my ice cream away."
I've
So
heard
then
it.
she,
I've heard it so like go.
so, well, oh my gosh, like you could tell them to jump through hoops of fire.
Yeah, but not my ice cream. I've had women say the same thing, like, no, just don't take away my cheese. I'll do
So,
anything. I'll give you my left arm and one child and maybe a kidney, but don't take away my cheese, please.
so I learned both sides of it. That, well,
Yeah.
there's what's right. There's all the lab work, and you can pretty much sort it out. Okay, you got hormones, you got immune system, digestion, detoxification. Like, people are walking in and they have all of it. There's no one diagnosis. A bunch of stuff not working right. That's why I call it metabolic chaos. It's And even some brokenness, perhaps a medical condition. Maybe they had a gallbladder removed and just different things. But then what? There's no writing prescriptions in FDN. The the prescription, if you will, is um, change your life, walk a narrow path, eat right, go to bed on time, exercise, reduce stress in every way we could identify it. And sometimes you can't even identify it all. And take your supplements. We're pretty big on that. I don't have a brand or anything, but um, food isn't very high quality anymore. So we have to supplement the vitamins and minerals and all that stuff. So 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 it's a narrow path. And that's again, I just wanted to throw out in
You
fairness,
you you, ta-
consistent.
you
Yeah.
touched on something really cool here because part of the equation and part of the formula, if you will, that I've also experienced in my own personal and professional journeys with this is when we're talking about this stuff is there's that level of empowerment and investment in yourself, not just dollars, right? Like yes,
Yeah.
some of this is cash pay because the insurance model is a sick care model. It's not a well care model. It's not proactive. So you can put a line in the sand of like what you're doing, the practitioner, labs, and but there's that space that you keep saying, and I heard it in many ways, but what I heard was very similar to what I believe too is you have a part in your own healthcare journey, which is not what big pharma or big food have programmed us in a way to understand. Like, hey, diagnose me, give me the pill, and I'm going to walk out of here. My symptoms will be fine and I'll be managed. I do not love the word disease management.
Oh,
What we're doing is removing and putting in the good signals and taking away the bad ones. I do want to talk about the bad stuff too, because you said metabolic chaos and why I think clinical supplementation and detoxification pathways are so much more critical this day and age because of our food not as nutritious and the toxic load that we're on. But I
yeah.
thank you for enlightening people like, hey, guys, everybody has to walk that narrow path, but you got to walk it. Nobody's going to walk your legs for you in this realm of if you want to be really well. That's what I say to most of my clients before they even pay me a dollar. What is your willingness? How
Well,
bad do you want it?
you're right on target, and couldn't agree more that the person must be committed. And way back when, I could recall again being out on my bike and thinking, haunted actually by back at the office, and I would wonder why are they putting their health, talking about the patients, why are they putting health in someone else's hands? Isn't it our own responsibility? And then of course the other things like, um, wanting to be the last guy they had to see. And how do I stop this cycle of trial and error? Because they were all out. Again, if you're a 9 or you're 12th practitioner, you're stuck in a cycle of trial and error. You try something and it was this might sound legit and all that. But to your point about the self-care, um, I started asking patients coming in, and I was the front man, so I got to see everybody. And I would say, "Mrs. Smith, you're doing so good. You're coming in 3 times a week, and you're getting your chiropractic and your acupuncture and your other treatments and modalities and things. That's wonderful. Uh, how's that working for you?" "Oh, well, it's okay. I'm doing it."
Mm.
And they're just I go, "Well, let me ask you a question. What are you doing at home to supplement, augment, or enhance what you're doing here?" And most of them didn't know what I was talking about. And that's where the idea of self-care and the other half of FDN, half of it's the investigation, the lab work. The other half is what do people have to go home and do? So to our point about the narrow pathway and um, you know, taking away their ice cream, before bed, probably not a good idea. But that's where the half came from, just listening to people. And I didn't want them coming in the office all the time. I thought a lot of them were just kind of spending money so they look like they're working on themselves, but they really weren't. And
Mm.
so and the doctors didn't like when I told people that. you don't need to come in the office. You need to go home and behave yourself. They didn't like that one bit. So, but it all works out, and we did very well in the office, and um,
Well, I appreciate that comment, but also the you're a pretty matter of fact guy, right? You say things as they come, right? That there's no, and
yeah,
sometimes in health we need that wake up, like, hey, because how many doctors did they go to where they didn't ask the damn question that says,
yeah,
"What are you doing outside of this office
yeah,
visit?"
yeah,
And
or ask, or
and
yeah,
developing out your own, and yes, this wasn't normal back in the day when you were coming up with some of these ideas, but in today's world, in the new generations, they're looking for this, but we still need that guidance. We still need these labs. We still need
yes,
the the objective and subjective components. It's moving in better directions, and I believe expanding. You keep using the word evolve. I believe our medical world is evolving beyond functional medicine today. And
yes.
I'm love to be a part of this part. This is my
You
favorite
are
place to
you're
play,
part of it. Yeah,
is working in this quantum world of, relationships and mind body connection and all these fun things that we knew of from the ancient worlds, but now we're adapting it into the modern day science. There is a lot of lab things now direct to consumer. And I want to talk to you because you are one of the pioneers who really took the word lab and really made it functional, right? Functional component of people's overall well-being. But now we're seeing the likes of all these subscriptions and these things where people can get 500 labs for 500 bucks, but there's nothing to do with it. And so I just want to get your thoughts on this, because this is where healthcare is going now. Like, it's direct to consumer, and there's this piece that I hold dearly to myself, not because I want to own it, but there's a place where guides are important. Your FDNs are important because they're not just running the labs because they have something that they can run. This, you said it a bunch of times, and I know you're going to say these things, but it's the application of it, right?
yes.
So talk to people a little bit, because I could go on to Function Health or wherever these things are now to get my labs, no doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not a bad thing.
Data to me is just one point. It
You want the
doesn't
data.
do anything for you if you just know the data.
Absolutely. So FDN, I called it that because I was being kind of pushed towards have some classes read. You need to teach other practitioners what you're doing here in the office because it's so amazing. And we were getting good results. So I just came up with the name Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. It's very functional. That was a cool word back then. Now it's abused. Um, and but it could also be the F could be foundational. Foundational. It's foundational. And the diagnostic was again, I just thought it was trying to think of a cool name to call my workshop, my first workshop ever. 19 people. I had no clue that they wouldn't go away and we'd have 5,000 today. But the idea is the diagnostic was not medical diagnosis, which is diagnostic in nature because we're using labs and we're looking at data. So you could say functional diagnostic nutrition because I was a nutritionist, a nutritional therapist. I had a certificate in that and a bunch of other certs. Um, but also functional or foundational, data driven nurturing. And that's what it is. It's foundational. It's diagnostic in nature, but it's really that just means data driven. There's no medical diagnosis, and it's nurturing, nutrition, nurturing, all the things besides eating right that you have to do to be really healthy, to feed your body in many ways. So so from that, you know, when you look at the labs from that point of view, you're just getting data that everyone needs. And when I taught my first class, I had completely forgotten. I just didn't consider that, hey, these people, unless they're a doctor, and a lot more, uh, they can't get the labs. So I created one of the first direct to consumer lab programs. There was only one other guy that I know of that was helping his practitioners get lab work done. So I had to do that in 2008. There was no direct to consumer.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's 50 of them, including the big referencing labs. LabCorp has a direct to consumer. Quest has a direct to consumer. Everybody's and why? Well, because labs are very low margin companies. They don't make very much money on each lab. They have to do super high volume to make a buck, which keeps the doors open, which is a good thing. But but so so they now kind of got off on some tangents on the direct to consumer. So I have my own program that my practitioners use if they need it, and a lot of them don't because they can order any lab they want. So we do a really good job of that, customer service, and we'll ship right to your patient or client's door, any state, doesn't matter. Matter of fact, we're in 50 countries and working on getting the labs to everyone on the planet, you know. But but so that direct to consumer thing isn't all bad. It's bad when they don't have the practical backing of an experienced clinician or one who is trained really well.
Well,
And
that's the key, I think. Like, I'm not bashing direct to consumer. I think accessibility is so important, and
really,
you've paid the way for that. But what I see missing in all of my entrepreneurial friends, because they're entrepreneurs, they're not people that have dived into what we've done. And a lot of people that look at this now from health, longevity, vitality, even some things about hormones, it's like, oh, I'm going to get all this stuff and then I'm going to just like chat GPT, Dr. Google my way over here. And then they come to me when they're still sick and they're like, what did I do wrong? I was like, well, you didn't get a guide. Like Michael Jordan had very good coaches because the best of the best have coaches. Like I don't do my own taxes. There was no way I would do my own taxes and bookkeeping. It would be the last thing I want to learn.
it'd be a joke.
But you bring a professional in, right? And so
Yeah.
there's this balancing. It's never balanced. But for me, Reed, it's a balancing. It's like, do you have the right person in your corner that can guide you through this stuff as you're empowering yourself?
Well, so true. And I'll say that I've got mine. And without my mentors early on, it would not have turned out the way it did. I became well known and an expert, but I had my mentors too. And now I train practitioners and maybe I'm their mentor, but I've trained so many who are so smart and so good at this. Once they get the thinking, once you get the thinking right and understand how the body really works, you know, the innate intelligence and how it heals. When you know that, then you're truly empowered and you can learn other labs. I can't teach everybody every lab. I teach a handful that I think are critical it's what I did in the office for all those years. What you know, what I what I discovered. But you once you get the thinking right, you can go run all kinds of labs and you can specialize a little bit in the kind of person who shows up at your door or and things, you know, niching and things like that. So not sure I'm answering your question, but addressing the idea of and you're right, they're not bad. Direct to consumer isn't bad, but um they say, you know, the lawyer who represents himself in court has an idiot for a client. You know,
True, right? I have
yeah,
I am in longevity and men's vitality, right? I still have my people around me that are like
yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
and especially with your spouse too. Like you
Oh
can
man,
never be the practitioner for your spouse, people. Don't ever try it in the entire world. It will never work.
yeah,
Because
I married
there's
up.
some
Yeah,
energy to that, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Nothing like a good partner spouse who can, you know, provide some additional information or feedback or what have you.
Well, it's just part of the nature of the how we're influenced, the energetics of it all. You did speak some beautiful words to me because here we are. You said it, innate ability to heal.
Oh man.
So I want to dive into this space because this is beyond the pills. We're here to literally show, like in different ways, how we can get the body to unlock the ability to heal. Because that is my belief. And that's a strong belief that I believe is very true, is we all
Right.
know what to do, but we just need the tools to do it.
Yes. And this is also a great opportunity to show how, let's say, modern medicine and functional health coaching with labs and like FDN can work together because it's that thing, that innate healing ability that has to have time to work. So there are situations that might arise. I'm thinking of drive-by shootings, car accidents, you know, getting off a plane from West Africa and your temperature's 105 and you're bleeding from your eyeballs. You're not going to call your nutritionist. You're going to get the urgent care that our uh, doctors today are so good at. They will save your life because there isn't enough time for that innate intelligence to work. You're bleeding to death or you can't breathe or whatever it might be. So that kind of defines it for me. When the downward spiral in chronic illness is really contracted, um, you 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 probably should see a doctor. You definitely should see a doctor and see what they can do to stop that downward spiral, to try to put the brakes on whatever that downward process is, and then work together with an FDN practitioner who will work around the edges of that until it goes away. So the medical condition is now resolved, your life saved. You got to have time now to do the program. You have to be able to run. We call it our dress for health success program: diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation. Those five elements will help you heal anything and everything that isn't going to kill you right away. I don't want to laugh here, but so again, when the downward spiral is really contracted, doctor and FDN. When it's protracted, when it's this long drawn out thing, it took you 5 years to get in the lousy shape you're in. It's going to take some time to get you back in shape, and you don't really have a medical condition most of the time. What the people who come to us, and sometimes it's really serious, and sometimes they may even have a diagnosis from. And I've seen those completely disappear. Again, if there's time to heal, your body will do it, and it's a process. To your point of coaching up function, you got to know what functions to look at, how to test them, how to look at where they are. Um, so we coach up function while we coach down those contributors to the metabolic chaos. And people are self-sabotaging, and they're eating crap, and they're breathing bad air. It's just, there's lots of things going on in the environment that aren't good for us. So we coach up function, coach down those contributors to metabolic chaos. And as you uncover obstacles to healing, sometimes you got to get pretty creative, especially when it's in their head, when it's in the mind and emotions of the person. They're addicted. The people are so addicted to certain some of these bad behaviors. Um, that's where the health coaching comes in. Like, coaches are so important.
I agree. And that's the other essence of all this is like when someone's chronic lifestyle, because I would say 70-80% of chronic conditions are all lifestyle problem. But once that becomes compounded over time, there is a dysfunction where the medical interventions are appropriate. We have to put these things on because like you said, we got to put some brakes down here. Like if you have hypertensive crisis because your bad habits have brought you down here, or metabolic dysfunction, or whatever you want to say, like whatever the de jour is for that, is there's the medications are needed for the symptoms to be slowed down so you can take over the innate about, like, it does take time. This is the other part is like, for me, it's like you could just put a line down the middle. It's like traditional medicine is this, and what we're talking about is this. It's not or, it's and. It's like this takes time, but then when you bring people into the equation, you say, like, listen, you didn't get here overnight either. So this our process this is the hardest sale, right? Read is like people want the quick fix. This is why everybody says take the drug for this, take the drug for that. No, that's a symptom resolution, never goes away. But now we're talking, like you said, and what I love to say is like, let the body take over. But it's going to take some time here because we got to let the body do what it's supposed to do naturally. So we're giving it the good signals, we're taking the ones out, and along the way, we're making some of these things possibly unnecessary. You said chronic disease is possible to eradicate from your existence. How many times have you seen it in your career?
Well, thousands of times. And
Right.
I had thousands of patients and clients come through the office over the years. I had pretty unique, a very aggressive marketing program. I didn't get into the health business. I was already in my 40s and pretty successful at some other stuff. So I came in with a business wherewithal, and I took that approach at first. I just got myself hired to help build the clinic. But once I started working there and talking to the people coming in the door, my life changed. I didn't care about that anymore. I just wanted to help people. And I was always kind of a Boy Scout, but what I'm saying is how what like and I again spending 10 years sorting it out with great mentorship, I recognized some patterns on my own that worked. They just everybody, no matter what their chronic downward spiraling condition was, if it wasn't downward spiraling really fast, where they need to see a doctor, and that'd be fine. No problem. I'm not a doctor. It's two different sandboxes, and you can do both.
Yeah.
And hopefully, again, physicians save lives. Wonderful. And then what? Can they extend life? Can you do this anti-aging and longevity and really seeking happiness and joy? What it boils down to for me, but um, uh, yeah, everyone can take that, and everyone can learn how to do that if they're so inclined. I love taking practitioners who are we're doing a lot of nurses and registered pharmacists. People are on the in the health space as allied practitioners. Um, some even licensed people, a lot of chiropractors and acupuncturists and some medical doctors. They seem to be a bit more stuck where they are. Um, but for the ones who aren't, it's a whole new wide world of helping people get to the underlying causes, conditions, change their lives, and often walking a narrower path and getting happier. It just works. It's really amazing.
Well, I want to pause you because you said something very profound, and I don't want people to miss it. But I heard you say, "Is joy your key ingredient for longevity?"
Well, it should be in the mix there somewhere, don't you think? I mean,
Yeah,
my dad.
but you like said it so nonchalant, like. But the real thing for me is joy and happiness, and then you kept going. It's like, no, that's actually it right there. Like
Well,
people are so miserable; they're stuck in their own world. It's like
uh,
be happy. Let's be joyous. Let's bring our vibrational energy up to love and beyond and see what
yeah,
happens.
amen, amen, brother. Again, I was in California for 45 years after other places, and I loved it there, and the vibe there is really good. I mean, it's pretty much sunny and bright every single day. Why wouldn't you be happy? Be it. We had people coming in the office who weren't happy, and I had to coach them up. You want to be happy? Let's resolve stuff. I'll tell you about one lady real quick. She was coming in the office. It was about her sixth or eighth visit, and I had talked to her many times. She was coming in for chiropractic one day for neck and back pain, and how you doing? Man, she was having a bad day, and she told me all about it. She goes, "It's horrible, Reed. I'm just so unhappy and frustrated, and and I'm a guy that will butt in and try to help, but not this day. She was telling her whole story. I'm so unhappy. I'm so unhappy. This 40 pounds extra weight that I'm carrying because I'm on medication for the hives is just killing me, Reed. And it's just really bad.
Mm.
And every time I tried to butt in, I couldn't. She goes, and I was at the doctor the other day, and I told him how unhappy I was, how frustrating it was to be, you know, have 40 pounds because of the medication that he put me on for the hives. And he said, "Lady, you can be fat or you could have the hives." According to her, that was his response. And so now I'm starting to see why she's so unhappy. And she goes, and then I said, "Well, that's depressing." He said, "I'll be happy to write your prescription for antidepressants."
Well,
And
we
now I know
learn.
why she's staring at the floor. She's just she can't get over this condition that she's in. And by this time, by the way, I'd walked her back to the treatment room where she was going to get. We usually gave some myofascial therapy and a heat pack, and then an adjustment. And I was really good at the therapy too, but I just looked at her before she went on the table, and I said, "Well, first name. Did you ever think about finding out why you get the hives?" As if that was some, space concept or something like that. And her head snapped around like this. I thought it snapped around so hard she wouldn't need her chiropractic adjustment that day. And what? What? I said, "Well, I don't know, but maybe we could find out. If you'll do some tests, we can find out why you get the hives." And it was such a foreign concept to her, obviously to her physician, and it was over 25 years ago. But I'll never forget the look on her face and the hope and the willingness to, yeah, I want to find out. So we sent her home because, and moving forward, just a couple weeks, she was off her medication. She called her doctor, said, I found out why I get the hives." Like, what a concept. And she was off her medication, and she was working out to a sweat, and she was taking hot showers. I said, "So?" She goes, "Well, I haven't done that in 2 years because even on the meds, I would get the hives with hot showers and sweating." So, what a change in her life. My point being just that you can change, this changes people's lives. It changes the practitioner's life when you get that, you see that joy and that happiness and the things you mentioned.
Well, that's you said in the full circle moment here in the beginning of this is we all got in this to help people. Like literally, that's when I was 16 and went through leukemia and my cancer diagnosis and survival. Like I'm like, oh, I want to help people too. That's exactly why I became a pharmacist because I thought the drugs worked for me. It should work for everybody. And it took this whole full circle moment for me to realize it's not quite the case for all chronic conditions, sir. But
Yeah.
it's what you said is true. We're never bashing the traditional methods, right? But it's not the only way to do it. Like if some people want to move beyond and say, I'm depressed, it's not the pill, right? Why am I depressed? Because I'm holding on weight. Why am I holding on weight? Because I'm on a medication for hives. Well, why are you on like you got to the one question nobody ever asked her in the medical field is like, why are the hives even coming? Really? Okay, let's find that. And look, it may not be that simple for everybody, but
No,
asking
it's
the
not.
questions
Oh, oh.
makes the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 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 The same thing though. Like you mentioned, have you seen anything that was diagnosed go away? And oh yeah, like that's why I'm in business. That's why I pursued the labs. It would have, that was almost a lucky. I considered that lucky. Um, I had a lady once who um called me up. I don't know, phone back then the phone rang and you answered it, believe it or not. That used to occur. And it's the front. Hi, it's so and so. And I just want to tell you, Reed, I've been on your program for a couple months. And I thought it was strange when you had me eat more protein and fat and things like that and other stuff. It seems okay to me. But I want to tell you that I went to the doctor the other day, and I didn't mention this when we first started working together. She said, but I had high cholesterol. And she goes, and I went to the doctor the other day. I thought she was going to read me like her cholesterol went up or something. I got real nervous. She goes, I want to tell you that my cholesterol is totally normal now. And I haven't taken any medication or anything like. And I just had this relief. Like, this is back in the day when I'm still learning. We're always learning, but I was really just getting started. And um that sense of accomplishment, and that was a relief as well, but the emotional satisfaction, and I could go on and on. I could just tell
Well,
you one.
the case point is in your I always love teaching now through experience. And because you've brought practitioners and patients and people through this process, like the stories of transformation are real. Like this podcast is here to open up awareness for people to move beyond and make unnecessary medications unnecessary. They're not all of them are unnecessary. That's why there's a delineation for me, but we can talk about how do we make them unnecessary through
Yeah,
those diet, those lifestyle, those targeted labs that the doctor never heard of that might just unlock one pathway for you that brought you to the next step because you said yes to bringing them to that space where at the end of the day the outcome was I don't know what you're doing but keep doing it, says the
yeah,
doctor.
yeah, right. No, so many have
How
said
many
that.
times have you heard that? Because I've heard it a lot.
Many the doctor. Um, you can't argue with success, right? So, uh, I had a my jujitsu master told me that because when I started working out at this gym, I was in my 60s already. I'm in my 70s now. I don't wrestle anymore. I keep getting hurt, but but I was like the strongest guy in the gym in my 60s. No, none of these young guys, 25 to 35, 40, could muscle me. They could technique me, which was the whole point, but none of them could muscle me. And they said, "What do you do? How do you go to the gym?" I said, "Well, I do Pilates." And Pilates, ugh, like they didn't understand Pilates. But the master came over one day and he goes, "Whatever you're doing, just keep doing it, like because you're like the
Yeah,
strongest guy."
like I said, we're not
Yeah,
this is not an episode to bash like clinical medicine, right? It's
yeah,
literally we want to like this whole podcast is just fun for me because we get to have these conversations about it's not just this, it's beyond. Like this is the whole component is beyond. It's not or. Like we can if you have a chronic condition and you're not incorporating some level of lifestyle. I love your dress acronym. It's so beautiful, right?
thank you.
It's diet, it's rest,
Work,
it's
work,
exercise, it's
yeah, it,
stress
that
management.
that didn't happen overnight.
But that is the premise of lifestyle medicine and health coaching is going through these lifestyle modifiers and treating them as medicine, right? When I get to a client who says, I need you to prioritize your sleep and track and measure it, right? We now have the
Yeah,
tools we didn't have when you were where I was like, you know, 20 years ago. We have these tracking and measuring tools where we can incorporate them into our lifestyle which ultimately allows us to have these open up these conversations of okay my hives are gone now. I guess I don't really need that medicine. Maybe my doctor's cool with that and then they say I don't know what you're doing, this is fun stuff for you, I like it. Or maybe they do like part of this journey for me was going through it in my personal life, not to learn about it as a practitioner so I can prescribe it for others. When you move to this wellness side of things, it has to be in your life. And that's the big delineation I've seen in my career and my mentors who you share friendships with too,
yeah.
have taught me. You got to be the product of your product.
Yes, I'm just curious. You mentioned something. Did when you're a pharmacist, I don't know if you were actually kind of handing out medicine. At some point, you probably were. Um,
Since I was 16, Reed, I've been in retail
well, did
community
you,
pharmacies up
did,
until last year.
well, I mean, did you
I've
kind of
dispensed
judge the
hundreds of
people?
thousands of medications to people.
When people came up, did you look at the medicine and look at the person and go, like, this isn't going to help them? Like, they're on the way out. Or did you look at them and go, "This isn't gonna help you one this is useless for what you got." Like, you can see I'm just asking,
No, no, it's a great
I
question.
still
My evolution in pharmacy was to pay attention and understand, like literally. They're coming back every month. They're not getting better. What's
Yeah,
wrong here? Oh, wait, over time, because I was in pharmacies for years.
yeah,
Oh, wait a second. You've been here every month. Now you're getting more prescriptions and more prescriptions. And this disease management, everything's on target. Your blood pressure is at target, like all these
yeah,
things.
huh,
But then I started really opening up my own why, going, why in the hell are they on this in the first place? Why are they getting sicker, not better?
yes,
Which then led me to those questions of, well, why do sometimes people get better and sometimes they don't? And what's the connection between that? And so it's got me on like
that's
5,000
yeah,
rabbit holes in my life for sure.
yeah. It's similar to when I was asking, "What are you doing at home?" Like, you're coming in and you're getting your therapy, but what are you doing at home? So, well, I'm glad that you did that, Josh, and it must be pretty rewarding for you to be sitting where you are, helping others to come to that same realization. It's a real paradigm shift that's required, especially, you know, remember I had a lot to learn, but nothing to unlearn. I was
I
never
love that
trained,
statement, by the way.
never,
It's beautiful.
never trained. It's just true. It just,
Well, I believe we evolve, right? We're always evolving, we're always growing, we're always learning, and we're always adapting into the new environment. I want to do some rapid fire with you before we end our
oh,
session here.
okay. Okay, go ahead.
Um, because you work with the same kind of clients as I do, high performers, things like that, is burnout inevitable for high achievers?
Oh, no. No, not if you remember to the habits of stress reduction included in that. It's possible, but the signs are real obvious. You start, um, not wanting to go to work so much as you used to, or whatever it is. You don't handle stress, or maybe other things start to bother you that wouldn't have bothered you before. Um, and so you get irritable, is what I see. I see people getting irritable when
Well,
they're
I
hurt.
think
Yeah, and
that's
so if you're
I just
finding
I'm asking you because I want rapid fire. Like, I know
okay,
some of these answers for you, but like, is chronic disease random?
it could be considered random, but no, I think it's very purpose driven. There's a lot of bad things in our environment, things that are bad for us, and so it becomes pretty. What's the opposite of random? Consequential or something.
Hmm. Can vitality be engineered?
Oh yeah, that's what we do with our labs. I think we get the data, and we look for, like if you're tracking CRP and homocysteine and CR8, uh, hemoglobin A1C and things like that, you can sort of engineer a program to change the paper. That's not how we work per se, but yes, you could engineer through. That's kind of what functional health is. They're engineering health by looking at data and prescribing specific things to change the numbers on the paper. That's kind of engineering. So I'm not sure you want just that, but might be a good place to start. Or
No, I'm curious. These are curious questions, maybe not have a complete answer.
yeah,
What's one lab marker people that everyone could benefit from that probably aren't looking at?
I would say that there's so many. What comes to mind for me in functional in FDN is the cortisol to DHA ratio, because one indicates your catabolism, catabolic levels, and the other is your anabolic. So catabolic and anabolic need to be in balance, or your body's going to break down. What you want is balance and resiliency in all systems, all cells, all everything. So balance and resiliency. So you could measure catabolic and anabolic. Those are the two main categories of metabolism, after all. It's either a catabolic metabolism process or it's an anabolic. It's either building you up or breaking you down. Um, and you need to break down so you build new cells. So there's a balance required. I think cortisol to DHEA ratio is a pretty good marker.
Love that. It's the one lab I love to draw on everybody that I go run program because coherence also is one of those big words for me. So what's the one lab marker people obsess over that matters less than they think?
Probably cholesterol, or something like that.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's much more important lab markers. I think the hemoglobin A1C would be good to obsess over, because you can change your habits. Matter of fact, maybe there's drugs that have some effect, but there's nothing like using a marker to guide your own activity and behavior and such. So those are the kind of uric acid and hemoglobin A1C, and I mentioned the cortisol. I think hormones, keeping them in balance, especially for younger women and men, but there's just so many. I look at liver function in every single person. I really don't have one lab. That's what FDN is. It's a constellation of healing opportunities. You've got to look at more than one lab. Me.
What Well, I guess that brings me to the last couple questions here, and thank you for participating in my rapid fire. What's one overlooked healing opportunity people ignore?
uh, it probably has something to do. I mean, it could be your diet, but um, I think stress reduction. I think realizing how much
Mhm.
stress you're under and not ignoring it for and just that's huge. And if you find yourself self-medicating, if you're always grabbing coffee and drinking that all morning, and then at nighttime you got to have liquor, some kind of alcohol or something, that's called self-medication. So if you're self-medicating, you're under stress, and you probably aren't even probably just think it's normal. But I want to tell you, it's not normal. If you have two jobs plus kids, whatever, and you used to handle it just fine, and now you don't, that's a sign. And something to pay attention to.
Love
Yes, I
that.
think stress is the root of all evil.
Well, it's the number one cause, the chronic conditions we've talked about, and I think that's why I've been using it a lot in my vitality programming, testing the cortisol, the DHEA, and then putting people into a stress resilience component. Like, and this is what I feel is misunderstood. Maybe is the emotional well being, which is what we're talking about here, and reducing it's not the stress or it's the way and manner in which we adapt to the stressor, right? So this is the
Yeah,
resiliency, but then it's the other part is like just talking about this and saying like people they throw it out the window like there's nothing to do and you can. And then the other one is environmental well-being. What we've talked about a lot is really looking at this from the perspective of we are living in a more toxic environment, but there's many things we can be doing. So thank you for that. Where do you see healthcare heading in the next 10 years?
actually, I'm very hopeful now that there's some activity around accountability within the big, um, say, influencers. The government for one, NIH, and uh, uh, Health and Human Services and things like that. I like seeing um, getting rid of the capture of these government agencies by industry. And I think if that continues, we'll be in pretty good shape. I think half the reason we're in bad shape is because of capture. I don't want to get political, but believe it's part of it. We have to say it that the capture of industry or capture of agencies that are supposed to protect us by industries is bad. And So the hope I've seen a lot of hope lately. I've written some papers. Like I just wrote an article on the new food pyramid, for instance. I think
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. I mean, it's not perfect, and I can tell you where it needs to be um, continued to be worked on. But absolutely, the idea that they flip that's very promising. You
Well,
know,
it's putting more attention. I've been placing my attention on this because I say big food, big pharma a lot, but what that really means is ultra processed foods are not good for our bodies, and we're at that top level, governmental, whatever you want to call it, like we're now changing the way people are thinking about food, not from a sustenance perspective or energetics. It's just literally what's good for your body and why we're
yeah,
recommending to put more into it.
yeah, and it takes time. I mean, just think about smoking. So smoking, there was a lot of capture of FDA and other things by this like tobacco companies. And you know what? They got defeated. They got sued, and we need to make sure we get sue people who do bad things to us. So we need more of that. But just like with cigarettes, nowadays everyone seems to know you have to be an idiot to smoke. But before it wasn't like that. It was cool to smoke. Like when I was a
Yeah,
kid,
regardless of the because it was the health risks and blah blah. It's not proven, blah blah. Well, yeah, it's funny how we're saying that now because we know
we're saying it
we
now.
know who owns the the
But
food industry.
Josh, that's going to happen with trans fats. That
Yeah,
same thing will happen with trans fats. Pretty soon, it's going to be no one wants to buy that crap, and so, but it's still in food everywhere. Like today. But so the thinking that we're talking about, and some of the um, again, I these agencies who are supposed to protect us, who've been not protecting us, um, that's changing. And again, just like with smoking, I think most people, I mean, I see people smoking, but not like before.
no,
And so that means what? It means you can change things. And so when that happens with trans fats and the seed oils and things, my wife and I use this app on our phones all the time, especially when we're traveling, called Seed Oil Scout. So if you guys want a good um, app on your phone to check out restaurants to see if they're using, olive oil and avocado oil and maybe some tallow or something like that. Good fats, good, clean, saturated fats. You can't eat those in abundance. You don't want to overdo those, but they're otherwise good for you. Whereas these other fats are inflammatory,
yeah,
not good for you, but they're everywhere. So we could do that with if we could get rid of cigarettes for the most part, or in a big way. We could do that with trans fats too. And so that's how I see the evolution to answer your question. It's going to be a slow process. A lot of it will happen. I'll be long gone, but hopefully leave
well,
behind.
I think what's good about the modern day world that we're in that we didn't have when I was growing up, which is, consumer demand is one thing, but like the awareness is it's instantaneous now. So you can't hide behind anything. So all of this stuff is getting exposed. We know that there's so much unregulatory process with processed chemicals and processed foods today. And that opening up that awareness of let's study this. Let's make sure we understand all this stuff. I think it's coming too. I really agree.
From
Um,
yeah,
this is
I know that we might be hitting up against the wall in the time, but um, um, there's just so much good happening as well as things we'd like to see change quicker.
for sure. Well, I appreciate you bringing clarity to the world of functional diagnostics. I love your balance of data and discernment. Test, don't guess, but don't worship the lab reports either. Um, that feels aligned with our mission here at Beyond the Pills, which is to simplify wellness and move people towards healing. So, where can people find you? Where can they look for FDN? Where can they
Okay.
find an FDN coach?
Yeah, you can go first of all, thank you for that opportunity. We have a URL people could type into their computers, fdntraining.com/beyond pills 26. So FDN, what we do, fdntraining.com/beyondpills26. And we could, see referrals coming from your group. And by the way, I'm going to have you on our podcast and we'll help each other get some listeners and some
Well,
followers and
I
stuff.
appreciate that. Like we'll put these links in our podcast notes and all that fun stuff. And our Beyond the Pills community is growing, and there's a collective forming of practitioners that are trying to look at what we can do. So that synergy is beautiful because I don't train practitioners anymore. You do. You do it well, and there's things to move people down this line where you don't have to go back and get a PhD to really do impact in the world. So we'll be, I'm no doubt be helping each other along this way and giving us both resources and both helping each other in this mission that we're on. I appreciate you, my friend.
Fantastic, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Oh, this was fun. I'm glad that was a full circle moment for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. There's plenty to do, plenty to see here. Really excited that you were able to join me here, Reed. That's a wrap, guys. Until next time, stay well. Thanks for joining me today on Beyond the Pills. If our mission to deprescribe 10 million unnecessary medications resonates with you, share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review. Whether you're a practitioner or someone ready to reclaim your health, visit rx2wellness.com for free resources to begin your journey. Together, let's go beyond the pills and co-create a world of vibrant health and true healing. Until next time, live better and stay well.